Bears at the Commanders. Here's a guy who may be on a golf course soon because he'll have all the time in the world. Matt Eberflus, coach of the Bears. Ask this question,
you're on a fire today.
Aware of the heat that's on you?
In this business, I've been doing this 32 years, right? So I understand the business, but I understand that to do it right, you got to focus on your job, and you got to focus right here, right now. So you can think about a lot of different things that's going to do nobody good, and you focus on your job where your feet are right now, and that's my full sole focus is on Washington.
Have you gotten assurances from higher ups, ownerships, at presidential level that they see where this team is going and that they buy into this?
Yeah, I feel the support. I haven't talked to anybody about any of those things. I feel the support, and we're just focused on Washington.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, there's a thought out there that if they lose tonight, he may be gone tomorrow. Who knows? Who knows? Minnie buys an opportunity to make the change. I haven't even looked at the coaching staff yet to see who would be the most likely person to take over, who makes the most sense to take over in the event there was a firing and an interim hire. But it's getting bad when the questions start to come up at the press conference. Dan Patrick was on for a little while yesterday, and we were talking about whether or not anyone would ask Bill Belichick about possibly being on the hot seat. And with him, it's tiptoeing down the hallway to the Wizard of Oz. With Matt Eberflus, he hasn't won. So no one is going to think twice about asking him that question. And I understand his response that he stays fully focused. I don't know if he truly feels support right now. I don't know if Kevin Warren's coming in and saying, hey, you're my guy. Don't worry. You're my guy to the end of the season, and you're my guy beyond or whatever. And if he was, Kevin Warren would be saying so. He's the new president of the team. He's the guy who arrived after Eberflus, after Ryan Poles, and he's the guy who presumably will have the power to make the decision to clean house or not clean house during or after the season. This is the time for public votes of confidence, although we tend to know how public votes of confidence go. They tend to be the precursor to the public invitation to pack your stuff and leave.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, I think it's on the radar. People are wondering what's going to happen here. I think it's a little early to start talking about Eberflus firing. I do. I think there's more at play here than just Eberflus with the Chicago Bears and what's going on here. I don't sit there. I don't think any of us did assess the season and went, man, the Bears are going to be a real player this year, right? This isn't a letdown. It's not. Are we shocked they're 0-4? No, not really. No. I mean, I don't think they've played a team that I can really legitimately look at and go, I think they were definitely better than that football team, right? The Buccaneers, there was question there week 2 because we didn't quite know what the Buccaneers were. And of course, that game in itself was there to be had. And what was that game? That was the game there was people open everywhere. Justin Fields wouldn't throw it to them or whatever. So I don't think it's fair to just blame Eberflus here. Now, I understand the talk and everything like that. When you come off a week where you were up 28-7 against a team that kind of looked like, hey, dysfunctional, right? And there you are, and then you have another big moment late in the game where the game is close, and now you have a controversial, should we kick the field goal and go up 31-28, or do we go for it, and then you don't get it, and then you lose the game? Yeah, that's what happens. Then people start to go, I wonder how much longer he'll last if this continues and he makes decisions like that and all that. So I understand that. But I will say that I do think it's a little premature to go down the road, at least as far as his butt should be on the hot seat here already. I don't think we're there yet. At least for me, I'm not there yet.
And I think coming into the season, the bar was a little bit higher than, we expect them to lose the first 4 games anyway. With Justin Fields, there was a thought that there was going to be a progression upward.
Right.
He proved last year he's the most dangerous running threat at the quarterback position. So you're going to take that and harness it in the Jalen Hurts transformation last year where he found a higher level and ends up being an MVP candidate and just kind of carries the Eagles forward.
See, but I think that's where it's a little overhyped, though. That's where, because the fantasy world, that's where I think they'll be better because look at all the fantasy points he had at the end of the year last year. And that's where I think it's a little bit of
it's not that. It's not that. It's not that. It's not the fantasy points. It's we have a guy who is the most dangerous running threat at the quarterback position, and we're going to develop him as a passer. That's what Luke Getsey's going to do. And if Luke Getsey can take this guy next level, the way they took Jalen Hurts next level last year.
I know.
See, I think that hurt the Bears. That created an expectation that Fields was
that's
gonna
what I'm
be better.
saying.
I thought he was going to be better. I thought he'd be better than what we've seen.
Yeah, I agree, but that's what I'm saying. There was that expectation there, and then but what people context matters, as we say a lot of the times, and then go, yeah, but Jalen Hurts had an all-star team around him, and Jalen Hurts has a team where he can hand the ball off 10 times in a row when they go down the field. He doesn't have to do anything. And Justin Fields doesn't have that. So that's where I'm just saying I think the hype on the Bears was a little overblown that way. I am with you.
DJ Moore.
Well, I know. I'm with you in that it should be, listen, 0-4 might have been like, okay, I didn't think it would be 0-4. But I certainly went into the year, and I think you did too, where, I wasn't expecting 9-8. I wasn't expecting that. 7-10, 6-11, 5-12. I thought that's about where they would be realistically, unless I saw a Fields jump that we went, oh, whoa, he did fix some of these issues, right? And last week was the first week where we came out of a game, we went, whoa, he actually looked good throwing the ball and made good decisions for the most part of the day. And maybe there's something there, so hopefully we can build on it. But that was it was the best game of his career last week. And there were still some major issues and mistakes, and they blew a 28-7 lead that we would blame any other quarterback for losing that lead too. So, that's where I think you just got to be a little fair with the whole situation there with Eberflus, so at least in my opinion, Mike.
Blown huge lead against bad team. Blown out twice.
Yep.
Lost by 10 at Tampa Bay in a game that it kind of felt like early on they had a chance to win.
Right.
They have not been impressive this year. Here's the other thing. I looked at the coaching staff. Some of these head coaches will bring in former head coaches and put them in key roles. It's great to have someone like that to lean on. Maybe that's one of the problems for Eberflus. He doesn't have someone like that around. There is nobody. When you look at the coaching staff, there isn't a single name on there that jumps out as the clear and obvious replacement if there were to be a firing. Now, maybe they'll hire Jeff Saturday, right? Maybe Richard Dent or
Mike
Dan
Singletary
Hampton can come in and coach the team. Right. Someone who played for a great Bears team of the past. And, it occurred to me, Kevin Warren employed Mike Zimmer. He wasn't in the same position of power and influence that he is in Chicago, that he was in Minnesota, but there's a familiarity there. If you want to bring somebody in and shake things up, Zimmer's available, and we saw last year they can make that interim hire anytime they want, any way they want. They can bring someone in from outside the organization if they want. So the whole world is a potential candidate to be the interim head coach of the Bears, but there's no one on staff that you look at. There were guys on staff in Indianapolis, John Fox, for example. There were obvious candidates to be the interim head coach that got
Gus
passed
Bradley,
over.
right.
There's no one. There's no one on this Bears staff that you can look at and say, okay, this is what we'll do to stabilize things the rest of the year. Their bye's not until week 13. I tend to agree with you. I think it is premature. Just let him get through the season. Let him get through the season.
Yeah.
And then after the season, make your decisions about what you're going to do.
The one thing I will say where this is on him, and it does need to be better, right? Because, again, I don't think the talent pool on the team quite justifies anything of great expectations yet, right? But, hey, they're going in the right direction. They're collecting assets. And as we stand here right now, they got the number 1 and number 2 pick in the draft for next year because of that trade for Bryce Young. But the one thing, and I think I brought this up to you last week, Mike, that I do think Eberflus, this is self-inflicted, and this is where he could fix it, is, again, you've heard me say this, you were hired because of your defensive prowess. You're a defensive coordinator. And last week, of course, he's back in the mix calling the plays on the defensive side of the ball. That, to me, is always something I go, listen, you could rectify your career here and quiet a lot of people when, hey, you're the defensive coach, and you can also go, hey, look at our defense. We're pretty good. Statistically, we're pretty good. And he took kind of a hands-off approach and let, the committee do it and hired a defensive coordinator, and that's where I just go, I don't understand that, like we've talked about. early on in the career, like or Mike McDaniel or Kyle Shanahan, they didn't hire him and go, well, hey, you're a great offensive mind. Now hand the duties off to somebody else and let them do it. That's not as good as you. That, to me, is definitely a mistake that Eberflus made, and hopefully he's going to rectify that and correct that as we go here.
Well, look, and the bigger issue is this. If you're going to hire a head coach in today's NFL, with all apologies to Tony Dungy and the other great defensive coordinators who became great head coaches, Bill Belichick as well, in today's NFL, it's incumbent to hire your offensive coach as your head coach. Because if things go well, what happens? You lose that offensive coordinator and you got to start over again. Look at what's going on in Tampa right now. They're all freaked out that Dave Canales is going to become a head coaching candidate. He's done great things with the offense, great things with Baker Mayfield, and he may not be there next year. So that's the other side of this coin too. Nothing against Matt Eberflus, but I just think that the importance of the quarterback position and the value of having quarterback and offensive coach, coordinator, head coach joined at the hip, there's value in that as well. And that's probably what the Bears will do the next time. If next year is the next time, it'll be an offensive guy, not a defensive guy, because teams tend to do the opposite when they fire a head coach and move on. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.